Thanks for tuning in to today's Bitcoin and cryptocurrency news. I am George. As you saw, I had some technical difficulties like usual, but today I wanted to focus on one main topic, and that is what Gary Cohn said about Bitcoin, which he believes Bitcoin has no integrity. And he is also, well, he was a former economic advisor to Trump and also COO of Goldman Sachs, and he served as CEO. He served at Goldman Sachs for 25 years. So definitely someone that's supposedly, knows his way around money and knows the financial system, right? Someone that is well versed in money, supposedly, but he does not believe in Bitcoin. He just conducted an interview on Bloomberg. Basically said Bitcoin, he's not a fan of. He has no opinions, yet he does. And he basically said Bitcoin has no integrity at all. And in this video, that's what I want to do. I want to refute what he said because I think nothing he said actually made any sense. So that's what I'm going to spend today's video on and just talk about what he said and educate you guys on how wrong he is and how awesome Bitcoin is really. So before I get started, yesterday I did release a video in case you guys didn't watch it because I did release it late. And it's about a CNBC analyst that can't stop laughing at Bitcoin. And this is a good one because this analyst, of course, went on air and just made a fool of himself with his head shaking and his incompetent answers. So if you haven't checked out that video, make sure you do so, and make sure you subscribe to this channel for more crypto content and news because there's going to be a whole lot of it. All right, guys, so thanks for tuning in. As always, smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell if you are new, and let's get started. And after I talk about Gary Cohn, then of course let's do some Q&A and look at some other things that's going around in the crypto world. So to get started, Gary Cohn, if you look him up on Wikipedia, I wasn't familiar who he was, quite honestly, but yeah, he's someone that's well versed with money. He's been around the block for many, 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 many years. I found out that basically like every person that's involved with money that holds a high position has worked at Goldman Sachs at one point in their career. It's like every single person, every single financial person that holds some kind of high rank, some high official, they all have worked at Goldman Sachs. And it's no different with Gary Cohn, who worked at Goldman Sachs for over 25 years. He became COO. He lived through not the dot-com, but the housing bubble. And he testified in front of Congress many times about, how Goldman Sachs and other banks and their toxic mortgages and stuff like that, right? But some of you guys may remember him as the economic advisor to President Donald Trump. So he served as advisor for only 2 years, 2017 and 2018. And then he disagreed with Trump on a few things and he decided to leave. However, he did serve under Trump for 2 years. So what did he say exactly, right? So what did he say during this Bloomberg interview? Well, he was just interviewed on basically what he thought about blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto, stablecoins, all that stuff, right? And it was a real shock because he seems to be very bullish on Bitcoin and crypto overall, but very bearish on Bitcoin for some reason. So I guess take a listen first, and then let me refute all the stuff that he said.
Bitcoin has been on a tear. How bullish are you on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and how much do you believe they will fundamentally transform our economy?
When we talk about blockchain, and we can come back and talk about the infrastructure, that's the highways and the pipes that are necessary for Bitcoin, but they're necessary for many other applications. And I think they're very useful, and I'm very bullish on them. When you talk about Bitcoin in itself, I don't have a strong opinion on Bitcoin. In essence, I'm not a strong believer in Bitcoin. It is.
Really?
It
Why
is
not?
a. It is a developing asset potentially, and for all the reasons it's a strong developing asset class, it may fail. Remember, part of the integrity of an asset class or part of the integrity of a system is knowing who owns it and knowing who has it and knowing why it's being transferred. And is it being used for legitimate causes? Is it being used for good? Or is it being used for illegitimate causes? Is it being used in corrupt practices and corrupt ways? The Bitcoin system today has no transparency to it. So there are a lot of people that question, why would you need a system that does not have an audit trail, does not have integrity? You don't know who owns it. You don't know exactly how much exists today, how much has been mined, how much has been lost, how much has been thrown away on hard drives because they don't exist anymore. So it lacks some of the basic integrities of a real market. And then you have to get into the idea or the concept that it's a theoretical value. It's a theoretical value, and there's a lot of other things that have this. It's a theoretical value because someone is willing to buy it or someone is willing to sell it at that price today. But there's nothing tangible behind it. At least when you buy an ounce of gold, you can deliver an ounce of gold to someone.
Okay, so if you guys thought what the CNBC analyst said was bad, I mean, after hearing, Gary Cohn talk about Bitcoin, it's clear that he really does not understand it at all. I mean, some of the stuff he said, just like it's the fundamental. I mean, for someone that actually says he understands blockchain and likes blockchain, I don't get how he can say things like Bitcoin is not transparent. So that's why I want to spend today to talk about what he said and hopefully educate you guys on some of the things he said, being that they are false and you should not believe in it at all. Well, I mean, let's talk about his first point or first few points, which is Bitcoin has no integrity because it's not transparent. That's the biggest thing. His whole argument is Bitcoin is not has no integrity. First of all, that's like a weird statement to make, right? But anyways, why does it not have transparency? Well, according to Gary, it's not transparent. So the U.S. government, specifically, I'm assuming that's who he's referring to, does not know, right, where all the Bitcoins are, who holds all the Bitcoins, where it's all going to, right? And most importantly, if it's being used for good, for legitimate transactions, right? So basically, he's saying that Bitcoin doesn't have integrity because the U.S. government doesn't know all those things. So at first, you hear that, you're like, man, this guy really sounds like a good banker, right? Because these are the things that banks regulate and they want to know about you, which is the good and bad. Because sometimes you just want to move your money. Sometimes you just want to deposit or make a withdrawal, right? Sometimes you just want to open a bank account. But no, the banks do have to know everything about you. And if you deposit or if you transfer a large amount, they specifically ask you, where did you get the money from? What are you doing with the money? Who is it going to? Where is it coming from? All that stuff. It's your money, right? So he basically sounds like a banker at this point, or watchdog or regulator. I don't know, right? But his point is just silly, okay? Does the U.S. government know where all the USD is around the world? Every single person that holds USD, do they know who they are? Do they know what people are doing with all the USD? As you can see on my screen here, this is all seized USD. So when these drug lords and whoever is utilizing USD For illegal transactions, does the U.S. government know? Does the U.S. government know how much is being hoarded and stored and being transferred at any given time? No. Do you know how much USD is circulating out there? No, right? So this whole notion that Bitcoin has no integrity because the government does not know what's going on with it, who holds it, who's making transactions, whether the transaction is legal, that is complete nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. Same thing with gold, right? Let's just take currency out of it. Let's take a precious metal like gold. Does the U.S. government know where every single gold, let's just say, it could be gold nuggets, it could be gold bars, it could be gold watches, right? Or any kind of jewelry. Does the U.S. government know where every single piece of gold is out on the earth or in the U.S.? No. So this whole thing, this whole argument just doesn't make a lot of sense. And did he forget that everything is on the blockchain? So yes, you can track every single transaction. And yes, you can track exactly how much Bitcoin there is. There is no guessing. Bitcoin is a lot more transparent than USD or gold or anything else out there because of the blockchain, right? So, number one, that's his first argument just doesn't make any sense. All right, let's move on to his second and third argument, which is just as weak, right? His second argument is basically, it's not tangible. Bitcoin is not tangible. So if you look at something like gold, it's tangible, that you can actually hold it in your hands. I mean, that's his other basis, right? And also, his other argument is, Bitcoin is only worth something because someone else is willing to pay that price, right? I'm just thinking, what out there on earth isn't like that? What investment out there isn't based on what someone else is willing to pay? It doesn't mean, right, just because it's not intangible, or even if it's tangible, whatever, physical or virtual, if someone is willing to pay for that, that's how much it's worth. It doesn't matter if it costs you $10,000 to make something, right? If no one is willing to pay $10,000, that means inherently it's worth nothing. It's only worth something if someone is willing to pay you that money, right? So this whole argument that it's not tangible, you can't hold in your hand, it's not backed by anything, right? As if the USD is backed by anything. Is the USD backed by gold? No, the USD is backed by nothing. So that argument doesn't make any sense. And to just prove my point, right? Now, if you look at collectibles, they're worth what someone is willing to pay. So recently, a Mike Trout rookie card sold for close to $4 million. Okay, it is the highest selling sports car ever in history, right? But why is it worth $4 million? Is it printed on some special metal that has never been seen on Earth before? No, it's printed on cardboard just like anything else out there. The reason why it's worth $4 million is because people want it, they deem it rare, and they want to collect it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Here's a guy, a YouTuber buys a dream car, looks like an Audi R8, by selling Pokemon cards. So why are people buying Pokemon cards, right? Because people deem it to be valuable. People are paying for it, right? Here's one. A 17-year-old sells digital art for $21,000. Not in the millions, right? But still, it's something virtual. It is a digital art form, and people believe it's worth something, so they paid for it, right? So you get my drift, right? So I'm trying to show you guys. Here's a more traditional art, right? X-Men cover sells for $300,000. Again, this cover is printed on paper, right? That's worth pennies, but people are paying for it because they deem it. And lastly, you have a Leonardo da Vinci painting that was sold for record 1.7 million pounds in France. You know what the funny thing about this is, and I just want to make a quick note, is that Leonardo da Vinci, we all know who he was, a Renaissance man, inventor, artist, all this stuff, right? So his stuff is very, very rare and coveted. So this art that sold for 1.7 million pounds, or euro. That's not pounds, it's euros. My mistake. But think about it. That's still less than half of what this card went for. So this thing about, about sports cards being like modern day art, that's true, right? Mike Trout rookie card sold for double of what a Leonardo da Vinci artwork went for. So think about that. That's mind-boggling, right? But anyways, going back to my point, just because Bitcoin can't be held in your hand, well, I mean, technically you can. You put on a ledger, you can hold in your hand. You could print out the private key on a piece of paper and say it's in your hands too. So technically you could, but this notion that Bitcoin is not tangible and you can't hold in your hands, which means it has no inherent value, and it's only worth what someone else is paying you for it. I mean, that's anything out there. It could be stocks, it could be cars, it could be artwork, it could be paintings, it could be rookie cards, it could be Pokemon cards, everything out there. And same thing with gold. Just because it costs mining companies millions upon millions of dollars to mine and dig gold out of the ground, if tomorrow no one wanted gold, what's the value of it? Zero, right? So I don't get that. I don't get that at all. So that's a weak argument. Weak argument at best. Lastly, this thing about being non-tangible is actually a good thing in the modern world. Everything is digital now, right? So imagine, we hear all the time that $1 billion or $100 million or whatever is moved, right, from one wallet to another, and basically it's moved for near zero fees. So, why is it so loud? Apologize for that. So we hear that all the time, like 100 million, was moved from here to here, or here, right? Imagine moving 100 million worth of gold around, right? So look at this. You have like mountains of gold, right? Probably in storage places by countries or banks or wherever, right? Imagine moving like 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion. You have to put in crates. You have to fly around the world through, with a big cargo jet. With Bitcoin, you don't. You can literally move $1 billion by yourself in a USB stick, or you could transfer it instantly, basically, right? So this notion of being non-tangible as being a negative is actually not. It's actually a great thing. And to transfer, I should say, large amounts of Bitcoin is a lot cheaper than transferring large amounts of USD. If you're trying to do a wire transfer or an ACH transfer or a SWIFT transfer, whatever, try to transfer $1 billion. Not that any of us will ever do that, okay? But just to make a point. But try to do that, and it's the fees are astronomical. But when you do that with Bitcoin, it's still just like $5 or under $10, I should say. So it's also very, very, very cheap to conduct a transaction with Bitcoin too. So, I mean, I just don't get it, right? For someone that should be very, very well versed with money, right? With the future of money, where payment systems are going, right? And he himself seems to be getting involved with the blockchain, with crypto, right? His whole argument about Bitcoin not having any integrity because it's not transparent and it's not tangible, right? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. All right, so I wanted to start with that. Again, I apologize for the mix-up at the beginning. Hopefully, at the end of the stream, I'm just going to cut that out, and you guys will forget that ever happened. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Because I can't believe it. Okay, but anyways, in case I forgot to say it this morning. You see on the bottom of my screen here, I do have my usual Twitter handle. So make sure you follow me there and on Cryptos R Us for double notifications. I still have my Patreon page, my Vegas fund. Also, brand new, you guys see, with FOMO building up and more and more people get involved with Bitcoin, and I've been asked in this channel too, like, hey, where can I go or where can I send my friends or family or whatever to learn about Bitcoin, I started a Bitcoin 101 course on Teachable. So it's cryptosaurus.teachable.com. Very cheap. And if you or anyone else, someone you know, wants to learn about Bitcoin in a very, very easy way, all aspects of it, then make sure you check out that course, which is on the bottom of your screen. All right, now let's move to Bitcoin. Where is Bitcoin at? Bitcoin is at 19,200, right? So Bitcoin overall has been pretty stagnant over the last few weeks, and that's not a bad thing, right? For basically the second half of this year, we have seen Bitcoin basically take a breather, then shoot up. Take a breather, then shoot up, right? And with our recent run with Bitcoin going from basically 11,000, 12,000 to 19,000, and it still sits at 19,000, this shows you that FOMO is building. And if you've been watching me over the last few weeks, few months, you know that the FOMO is driven by institutions right now. Institutions can't get enough. Just simply cannot get enough, and they are holding up Bitcoin at this point. And they know Bitcoin is still cheap right now because it's going to be a lot more expensive going to 2021, 2022. And most of them are buying Bitcoin not because they want to see it go to the moon like most of us. They're buying because they're afraid. They're afraid of what's coming. They're afraid of uncertain economic factors that may be coming. And they're afraid of devaluation of the fiat. They're afraid of inflation. They're afraid of a lot of things. So they're actually buying Bitcoin as a hedge against all that right now, as a store of value, which is very, very different than 2017 and any other period for Bitcoin's existence, basically. So right now, holding at 19,000, above 19,000, I'm really okay with that, and you guys should be too, because a lot of people suspected after this there will be a big dump like this back down before going up. And right now it is holding. It's just a matter of time before Bitcoin heads much, much higher. Once the 20,000 threshold is broken, that's when you'll see true fireworks, and Bitcoin will continue onwards, and it'll be much higher, much sooner than than we expect. Well, I'm getting a lot of spammers today, so I guess that's a good thing because people are paying attention to my channel. Good thing I have a few moderators in here that's helping me. Thank you, John, and anyone else that's a moderator that's been helping. So, all right. So that's Bitcoin, and that's Gary Cohn's view on Bitcoin. Overall, what else is going on? Well, if you look at BTC dominance, 62.5%. So Bitcoin is holding steady with the altcoins. Altcoins not really dropping or gaining, kind of holding. But look at the overall global market cap. It is now at $570 billion, and it continues to head higher and higher and higher. Remember, our peak was about 800-ish, 850 billion, I believe. So we're not too far off. We're really not too far off. And, you know, a lot of altcoins are really holding steady at this point with Bitcoin. So that's kind of a good thing. That's kind of a good thing. Obviously, it's not kind of a good thing. It is a good thing. If you're holding altcoins, definitely a good thing. But Bitcoin is definitely the name of the game. As institutions FOMO more into Bitcoin, right? It's only going to get stronger. And there's really a set supply, right? One of the things that Gary said is like, well, you don't know how much is being mined per day. You don't know how much is being lost, right? And all that stuff. Well, the loss part is true. But we know that there's this many, 18.5 million, that have been minted. We know there's a set supply at 21 million, which we don't know for anything else out there. Oil, gold, USD, certainly. There's no set supplies on any of them except Bitcoin. It's programmed. It's in the code. So that's very different. Now, his argument about, oh, you don't know how much has been lost. why does that matter? I don't get why that's relevant at all. That's just a stupid thing. He's just grasping at straws because he doesn't know what else to say, because the blockchain can prove his other points. Now, in terms of how much is lost, again, why does that matter? If I take out $100 from my wallet, $1, $10, whatever, if I go in my backyard and I bury it, I burn it, why does that matter? Does anyone care? Does anyone know? Does the U.S. government need to know? Do I need to report it to my my local bank and tell them that? No. So this whole notion like, oh, we don't know how much Bitcoin is lost. Just know that a large amount is lost. And for those of you guys that's holding it, that only helps you, right? Because out of the 18.5 million that has been minted, is actually a lot less. There's a lot less out there that is actually floating around. So that's actually a good thing. That's actually a very good thing. I'm glad John I'm glad John is doing moderator duties today. So I don't know what it is. I guess some people are mad. They're mad. Anyways, all right, I'll turn it over to you guys. That's all I have to bring up today. You know, I just want to refute what Gary Cohn said, right? Because I honestly believe that what he said is completely wrong, right? There's so many good things to Bitcoin, and there's just still some people that are disbelievers, and I don't know why at this point, why it's such a hard thing to understand. Just like the CNBC analyst, which just kept laughing. Like, if you watch that video yesterday, he just basically said, I don't understand why Bitcoin's going up. It doesn't make any sense during this last year, especially based on what has happened. Well, does it make any sense that Dow went up to 30,000 and all the tech stocks tripled and quadrupled and went up 5x? So if that makes sense, why does it not make sense for you to believe that Bitcoin could go up as well? It didn't make any sense. And his arrogance about it was just that much worse. Michael, thank you for your super chat. Thoughts on Theta and Theta TV. Theta is a good project. Theta TV is being used a lot by Japanese cartoon makers, or Japanese, I guess, TV shows, right? They're actually, Theta is much bigger in Asia than it is here. Theta has some good advisors, people that start YouTubes, people that started Twitch. So they're doing good. And they also got one of the biggest patents out there for decentralized streaming. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but yeah. So they're in a good spot. They're in a good spot. A lot of you guys are coming in late. You guys should know by now, I am streaming now at 11 a.m., right? Basically every day. But I'm gonna mix in a few segment videos as well. So make sure you guys tune in, right? The increase of spammers is a bullish indicator. I guess that's very true. I used to have sessions where it's just like nothing but spammers, right? And it just makes no sense for them to be spamming. But anyways, CNBC wants to create a Kelly coin? Really? Really? Are you joking about that? I hope you're not joking, Jimmy. Yeah, I think you're BSing. Brian Kelly doesn't even work for CNBC. He's just someone that they bring on because he's so bullish. Brian Kelly works for himself. He has like Kelly Investments LLC or something like that. Kelly said it jokingly live this morning. Okay, well, I'll have to take a look. Did you guys see that Floyd actually agreed to fight Logan Paul? I mean, that's just like crazy. Like, why would he even agree to that? Well, I know because it's because of the money. The you know, so supposedly they got a huge amount of money for that fight. Not because it was mostly for Tyson, but even the CEO of Fight, whatever the site is, said that that Logan Paul drew just as many viewers. So this purse is gonna be huge. Can you explain where the decentralization is with the government getting into crypto? Well, if you're talking about the stable coins that they're looking into, they're not going to be decentralized at all. It's just basically a digital version of USD, or China has their digital version of the yuan. It's not decentralized at all. So that's why it doesn't really compete with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still the one that is truly decentralized, truly non-sovereign, not controlled by any entity or any government. So as more and more people look for a way to say, or I shouldn't say just people, but people, countries, entities, corporations, as they're looking for ways to protect their money, right? Traditionally, the only thing you could do is buy gold, but there are countries where you can't readily buy gold, and there's countries you can't readily move money at all, right? So Bitcoin is the one that they trust, and that's why you're starting to see a lot of them turn to Bitcoin, because it's not controlled by anything. You don't have to worry about inflation. It's only deflating right now. It's getting rarer and rarer. That's why you have halving events, right? And you don't have to worry about someone like, I don't know, the Federal Reserve saying, okay, we're going to just, print money out of thin air. You don't have to worry about that with Bitcoin. Some people argue, well, altcoins are a form of printing, new Bitcoin. Right now, they're still altcoins. They're not Bitcoin, right? Anyone could create an altcoin, but doesn't mean that it's going to be adopted, right? And Bitcoin is certainly adopted. It has the first movers advantage, and honestly, that's not going to stop. And yes, digital media, dude, you have the right point. Altcoins do have a different function. Now, early on, a lot of altcoins basically just forks, basic copies of Bitcoin with a few things changed. But altcoins now is different, right? It's a lot of them is based on utility. A lot of them are utility coins. A lot of them are used for, say, DeFi now, which is decentralized finance. So those are all very, very different. They're not meant to be like a payment system, a day-to-day payment system. That's not what they're meant to be. I could hide. Me and my moderators can hide faster than these spammers that create accounts. I just never understood what the point is. What are your thoughts on V-Bucks? I have no thoughts on V-Bucks. Hey, Rich Buddy, your wishes granted. Anyways, it would help me. Yeah, so I made you a moderator. So thank you for that. Urban Sexy Man, I think you're still confused. I mean, it's a legit, but you're confused. So your question at the beginning was, you're afraid that institutions will basically buy up all the Bitcoin and control it. It's a matter of supply and demand. Okay, it's 350 billion right now. It's not like any company out there can just say, okay, here's 180 billion and let me buy out half the Bitcoin. It just doesn't work. There's not enough supply out there. As someone tried it, it would go up astronomically. So the early people that got into Bitcoin, Satoshi, miners, people who got in early, even you now, you'll see your Bitcoin rise up exponentially higher as they try to buy more and more. Sure, they could buy large amounts like Grayscale. They could buy large and large and large amounts, right? Like, for example, MicroStrategy now, they just purchased another 50 million. They hold 40,000 Bitcoin. Grayscale, as large as they are, right? Over 10.5 billion in Bitcoin. They have 550,000 Bitcoin, right? But to put things into perspective, 550,000 Bitcoin, although very, very, very large, is not even, 1% or not even 10% of Bitcoin, right? So that's how much money it takes. As they buy more, it's going to drive Bitcoin up and up and up and up and up and up. Right now, what's happening is, you might be wondering, why is Bitcoin not going up if they're buying so much? It's because the whales are losing out. Numerous stories about whales trying to hold at 19.5. They're selling as much as possible. Guess what? The whales are just losing out. They're losing control, and they don't want that. But what they're selling is going straight into the institution's pocket. The same thing with miners, going straight into their pockets, right? So you don't want to fall for that, which is why I always say, don't transfer your wealth to a whale or to an institution. If you've been holding, if you've been having, buying Bitcoin and crypto, then keep it, because we're on the verge, we're on the cusp of going much higher. So yes, even though they are buying large amounts, they're still nowhere close of controlling it, nor will they control it, because it just takes too much money. And if they really put in trillions to get into it, right, it's going to drive Bitcoin up to $1 million plus, right? So, yeah, so we're nowhere close to that point, Urban Sexy Man. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, it's funny that that's not an option, actually, upgrade. If you see someone post like 4 continuous messages that are the same, that should just be like an auto hold or something. I don't even get why that's not. But the good thing about it is it's easy to identify, because if you have spammers that's just doing one at a time or one every other message, then you can't even detect it. So in a way, that actually helps you detect who's spamming, who's not. Saf, I haven't looked into Kava recently, but they're a DeFi entity that is basically on different chains, not Ethereum, and they want to concentrate on DeFi lending on multiple chains. So they have some promise. They're on Binance, and their token is on Binance. But right now, everyone is focused on a DeFi project on Ethereum because they're much bigger, more liquidity. But Kava can grow someday. Lend is just Aave now. There's no more Lend. So Aave is doing really well. Aave is one of the DeFi projects I actually recommend to hold on. And I hold on to Aave because I think they're in a very good spot. As crypto goes up, people are interested in lending and in staking. And they're in a really good spot to take advantage. So, do you think as total market cap will have to hit 5? I don't get what you're saying. What does as total market have to be to hit 5K? You do the math. You pull out a calculator. Nexio, Celsius, they're all in that game, right? So, Austin, don't worry about it. I got enough moderators to get rid of them. All right. I think I'm going to end it. I did not have any breakfast, so I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to get some breakfast. Bottom line is today I wanted to talk about someone else that's influential, well-versed with money, supposedly. Someone that some of you guys may have heard of and may know. Gary Cohn, who served at Goldman Sachs for 25 years, was a Trump advisor. And he said Bitcoin did not have any integrity, which, excuse me, hopefully you guys heard me refute that. And basically, I don't believe anything he said is valid at all. He's just grasping at straws. So hopefully, you know, this will help you guys a little bit in case you were having doubts on what he was saying. But yeah, I plan on having a lot more videos like this. I think topic videos are actually pretty cool. So I might focus more videos and live streams on just one specific topic. All right, guys, as always, hit the like, subscribe to the channel. You do see on the bottom of the screen, follow me on Twitter, Patreon, Vegas Fund, and I have a new course on Teachable, Cryptos Are Us, teachable.com. So check it out if you or anyone else is interested in learning more about Bitcoin, at least the fundamentals of Bitcoin. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right, bye-bye.